Hello, I'm Dynasty Demir.
So we're at the Robert L. Johnson Resort. So this resort was built by Robert L. Johnson, who's the founder of BET, Black Entertainment Television. So this was his resort. I don't think he owns it anymore, but he used to own it. But it's beautiful. It's here in Monrovia, Liberia. Look at the beach. Look at the water.
I've researched and what I've understood about art history.
Okay. So as far as the legacy of the Black Americans, because nobody really speaks about it, because you have here and you have Sierra Leone as well, where that nation was established by Black Americans, by the Creole. What should a legacy be? Because here again, whenever you bring up Liberia, it's just like sweep it under the rug. But I think it should be celebrated.
I think it should be celebrated too, but it's unfortunate that there are people who had bad experiences under Liberians, and that really just jaded their perspective. And because of that, they don't want to claim us as they don't want to, I don't want to say us. Can I edit that out? I don't want to say that. They don't claim Liberians as the founders of this nation. They're under the mindset that, or not under the mindset, they are under the understanding that, Liberia already existed. The fact that...
Did it exist though?
In their mind.
Well, see, but this is the issue. They make it seem as if when the Americans showed up that Liberia was one nation and all the tribes were united, which isn't true. Right.
Which isn't true.
Right. Yeah. So that's my issue, because it's always the Americans versus the indigenous, as far as the indigenous were united as one tribe. When
but that's not true at all.
Right,
They were
exactly.
fighting amongst themselves a lot.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But even the fact that it says what is it? The love of liberty brought us here.
Right.
Many people have a problem with that, because they're like, brought who? We were already here. So who did they bring here? You know what I mean? So, but at the end of the day, you can't deny that it was the Liberians that actually established the nation. You can't deny that it was the Liberians that, really just that developed the country, because as long as the indigenous people were here, don't get me wrong, they had their customs, they had their traditions, they were doing what they were doing, but it was the Liberians that actually developed Liberia into a developed nation at the time, an African developed nation at the time, up until the Civil War.
All right,
that's undeniable.
So the question is, when the Americans arrived, like you said, the tribes, they came in, they were continental tribal beasts. Some tribes were participating in the slave trade. How and the argument is, well, they didn't integrate into Liberian society, when there really wasn't homogeneous Liberian society. With all that being said, how was the Liberian supposed to react?
React to...
Again, the argument is, let me turn the camera on myself. The argument is, when they came, again, they had their English names, they spoke English, they didn't integrate into Liberian society. But when they came here, they were warring tribes, some tribes were even participating in the slave trade. How was the America supposed to react, facing all that?
How were they supposed to?
Because you have some people that say that didn't happen. Like, for example, you have people that would argue, even though the slave trade was happening from Mauritania all the way to Angola, they will say, well, right there in Liberia, that wasn't happening. So you have some people that are saying, well, they should integrate into the, Liberian society.
Right.
But how are they supposed to, when tribal bees, some of the chiefs are already selling out to European leaders? What were they supposed to do?
I think that some people could have made more of an effort to really integrate themselves into the culture, but there were people that did. You know what I mean? Like, there were people that married people of ethnic tribes or indigenous tribes. There were people that spoke my grandmother spoke Vai and Pele fluently. You know what I mean? So, and she appreciated their culture. She learned how to cook. We all know how to cook Liberian food, like tabagi, cassava leaf, palm butter. Those aren't American foods. Those are Liberian foods, and those are things that we all know how to cook. We all appreciated learning like cultural dance and the customs and the traditions. Now, did they participate in those things? No, because they were of Christian values. So like things going to the Poro Bush and the Sandy Society, you know, American Liberians. Maybe there were some that did, but majority of them didn't. But to me, I don't feel like the nation would have gotten as far as it did if the two people weren't united in some sort of way. I feel like it's a false narrative to really try to make it seem like people were just so segregated and so separated.
Right.
I think that's a completely false narrative.
Okay, so the argument is the Americans came, enslaved the natives. There was set up a system of apartheid. I mean that's what people say.
I know.
That's what people say. So
I know.
what are your thoughts when people say that?
Like I said, it's hard for me to speak on a whole because of what I was shown and what I saw with my family. My family welcomed the indigenous people. They worked hand in hand with the indigenous people. They spoke the language. They cooked the food. They connected with them. You know what I mean? Like I said, my great grandmother married a Bassa man. You know what I mean? So to me, it's a very new concept to me, and it's something I'm still learning about because it was something that I was never exposed to.
Okay, so what was Liberia before the first coup? Did you ever hear stories like what?
Absolutely.
The glory of Liberia, like
Yeah,
what was before the first coup?
absolutely. It was Little America. That's what everybody called it. It was Little America. People used to come here for education, for healthcare. You know, it was extremely developed. That's what's so interesting when, like my parents, when they go to places like Nigeria and Ghana now, they're in shock because they remember when
Liberia was ahead.
Exactly. Like my mother always references how people used to come from Ghana to buy sugar and bread.
And get educated here too, as far as universities,
Right, exactly. So it was wonderful. I mean, there's so many great documentaries on YouTube where you can really see like the glory days of Liberia, a real life developed nation. You know what I mean? And it was a melting pot. You know, then that's why I think that there's the connection between Liberia and America as well. Because, for example, like I'm not just Americo-Liberian. I'm also Sierra Leonean. I'm also Nigerian. I'm Igbo, and I'm Yoruba. Like, you know what I mean? And it's because my ancestors, they weren't having the best lives in the countries that they were in, so they came to Liberia for a better life, for advancement, for work, you know, for education. And this is where a lot of them built their wealth and built their legacies.
So what happened after the first coup? Because I mean, it's just like I said, my dad used to come here all the time, and then he pretty much just abandoned shop. I think when the first Civil War happened. I think he was still coming after the first coup, but when the first Civil War happened, he just abandoned shop.
That was 1990.
Who was fighting who? That's why I'm confused, because you know the Americans were a small minority. Like who was fighting who? Do you know?
That's what's hard, because I know during the first coup, you know, it was very much the indigenous against the Americo-Liberians. That was clear as day. But then during the second war, that's where like nobody really has the answer, because we were fighting amongst ourselves, but nobody really knows like why we were fighting. So it's like there's certain things I don't want to say on camera. I'll be frank. You know what I mean? There's certain things I don't want to say on camera, but I don't believe that Liberia instigated the war. I believe that
outside forces
instigated the war for their own benefit, because everybody knows when the war was going on, people were raping our natural resources.
Right.
So I mean, it was an opportunity to rape.
I would say the first coup, outside forces were involved. I would take it that far.
Sure. And they kept it going.
Right.
They kept it going.
What do you think it's going to take to restore Liberia back to its greatness?
I think it's important for Liberians to learn their history. I think that's what it is. Like, we really don't know where we come from. Like, a lot of the things that we hear is hearsay. Like, that's just really it. Like, I have a completely different view on Americo-Liberians than the next person does. So it's like, what's the real story? And
Right.
even if
I'm trying to get the real story.
right, like even if we do understand what this real story is, it's time to forgive and move on.
Okay.
It's time to start anew. You know
Right.
what I mean? It's time to really just establish what this new Liberia is going to be. What's our vision? You know, what's our collective culture? Who are we as Liberians? You know what I mean? Because it's difficult to answer that question now. I feel like you could back then, but now you can't. So I think that it's time to. There's a time we need to heal as a nation. Like, I do feel as though, and I've always said this, I do feel as though that there needs to be a public apology made on both sides. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I feel as though the descendants of the Americo-Liberians need to apologize to the indigenous and vice versa. You know what I mean? Like, let's heal and let's move past it. And let's build it.
Now, what brought you back to Liberia? I know people probably thought you was crazy
Yeah,
for
for sure.
coming back. Yeah.
For sure. What brought me back to Liberia is that I visited Liberia for the first time as an adult. I left when I was 4 years old.
You never
I
came?
visited a few times. I
Okay.
visited when I was 9 and when I was 12. So anytime we would get like a little break between the wars, we'll come and visit. But I came in 2009 for the first time as an adult, and I just completely fell in love with like the environment, like the aura, the vibe, like the natural beauty, the mountains, the rivers, the lagoons, the beaches, and you know, I have a
I fell in love with Sierra Leone. I'll be back next month.
Okay, bet. You know, I just love the natural beauty, and I love the potential of it. I love that it was a time where Liberia was just kind of like starting anew. So I felt like there were so many opportunities to take advantage of. And I have a Bachelor of Science degree in Hotel Restaurant Institutional Management.
Where'd you go to college
So
at?
I went to Penn State University.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nittany Lions.
Yes, A. So when I came back, at the time, that's when we had opened our first 5-star resort since the war. So Robert Johnson.
Yeah, Robert Johnson.
Yeah,
I heard he sold it.
He did.
Why?
Probably. I mean, I don't know. I think he bit off more than he could chew.
Really?
Yeah. But anyway.
But they had direct flights from Atlanta going to
Yes.
Nairobi.
I miss those flights so much.
You used to catch those flights?
Yes, those Delta flights. 8 hours. You're here from DC too. Straight. Yeah, but anyway. Yeah, so at the time, and they were looking for Liberian faces, basically, to manage the place. So I took a chance and I applied, and I was hired as a front of house manager. So they relocated me and everything.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, back to Liberia, bought my plane ticket, like sent all my stuff, everything. So that's why, you know, I decided to come back, and I was there for like a year and a half. Realized like I really don't like working for people.
Right, corporate America. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So
I know, I got there last year. I left corporate America in October last year, so
Okay.
I feel you.
Okay, nice. And yeah, just decided to venture out on my own and take advantage of the natural beauty. So that's why now I do travel planning and tourism services.
How is it attracting people, getting people to come to Liberia?
You would be surprised. It's super easy. Like, and it's like, and I don't really even do much marketing. I've attended maybe 4 or 5 like tourism conferences in Ghana and Nigeria. I do a lot of networking there, and the fact that there's so many Europeans specifically that want to tour the region, it's really easy to get tours.
White folks.
White folks, of course.
Okay.
Like,
Okay, which leads to another point. Is, you know, I come to Africa. I'm starting to see white people touring West Africa a lot, but you still got black people in America who are still scared to come. Like, what can you tell them as far as trying to encourage them to come to Africa?
don't move from a place of fear, and don't move from a place where a narrative that they are pushing on you, because that's what it is. Why is it that they're so comfortable coming here? What is it that they know that you don't know?
Right.
That they're so comfortable to come here, but they push the narrative on you that Africa's poor, it's disease-ridden, it's your people don't want you, they won't accept you. So how many false narratives have they pushed into our minds over the years? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's time to think like outside of that and be adventurous and just come and see it for yourself. You'll love it.
All right, well, I appreciate it. Thank you. We're about to eat. We're about to appetizer or something.
Yeah, I didn't delve into that.
Okay, and they were saying that Liberia was just becoming too successful, that outside forces were jealous, just like with Haiti.
Liberia is not becoming successful. Liberia is going down the drain.
No, I'm talking about back before, the coup, before the first coup.
Yeah, but Liberia was
But certain people were jealous because no one expected free black slaves who at that time weren't even considered human, who weren't even citizens of the United States of America, who were considered inferior, stupid, over-aggressive. They didn't expect them to build what they're able to do. Yeah. So some people got jealous. Racist people got jealous.
Yeah.
So they're saying that there was a hidden hand that said, okay, enough's enough. Liberia's too successful. We got to shut it down.
Since the killing of Tubman, Liberia never became successful. They hidden hand. We're talking about they may be alluding to America's involvement.
Right.
But there's no substantial evidence, like I've seen in my time, to show that American hand was in this thing.
In the I'm talking about the assassination of
October.
Right.
Yeah, we've not seen it. We don't know. All we know that the 17 men and the highest ranking man that became leader, which was something to Master Sergeant. He was the higher ranking military officer because all of them were on guard, on duty that night at the executive mansion. You see, so they took power. All we know that they took power. The 17 enlisted military men. But the weakness, as you see, there's jealousy. A brother split in the origin of Liberia. We have only one ruling party, the Republican Party, that comprises only American Liberians who fathers were white men. Like J.J. Robinson, they were mulattoes.
Right.
But the only jet black president whose mother was a black slave, father was a black slave, was E.J. Roy. There was another party brought into being, the Truth Party. 1869 was established in Clay Ashland. 1871, the first standard bearer for the Truth Party, put out was a jet black American slave, E.J. Roy. And they killed him because of the same marginalization with white dominance over black. But nowadays, we only pray for one reconciliation. If this thing we just do away with all that we've done, the badness that's still existing, then we do away with all of those things and have one mindset, we'll be able to develop this country. People come to power like, well, man, we got in power. He doesn't know what we call diplomacy. He doesn't know what we call administration. He comes to power now and stay instating those ideologies in the minds of our people around here. Because we the country people, we in power. Tell me now, you as an American Liberian, you'll be looked at, and we are in the minority here, I must admit. So you go in the rank and profile government. You will now find many of the American Liberians there. But the people will still go underneath them to get idea from them. See, let me tell you. But the killing of Talbot, they were miscalculated. Talbot was the best leader we ever had.
Better than Tubman.
Better than Tubman stayed in power, even though he modernized Liberia. I was on the board of directors for VOT, for us at Tapeta in Nimba, where I lived for 8 years. And Monday holidays come in, I go on air to explain the significance of these days to the people who don't know, because some 12th graders don't even know the history of their own country. I go to explain to them. Some ask me, he said, Tubman, the Tubmans and the Colemans went a local head where your grandfather was killed by Tubman, and you still pricing or giving glory to Tubman. I said, well, Tubman was the father of modern Liberia, because the fight modernization, the concepts, the implementation came from Tubman. The first quota rule we ever saw, it came from Tubman. He came to power in 1944. It came from Tubman. The establishment, because there was an agreement between FDR in his incumbency as President of the United States and Edwin J. Barclay, President of Liberia. They signed into law an agreement for the modernization of Liberia. And Tubman came into power just in 1944. Like you see Freeport, like you see Robert International Airport. You see the whole establishment in this country was brought in by Tubman. Previously I told you administrative headquarters, administration was carried all over this country by Tubman. But we expected more. But at that time, iron ore was booming, the leading product in the world was iron ore, and Liberia was the first country.
Okay, listen. People need to know, like, again, more about the success of Liberia before the first coup. So iron ore, fish was being exported to Japan.
All
The resources.
Okay. And the global phenomenon now, if you look at the monetary value
Right.
of things
Right.
at the time, things were not exploding, prices were not exploding at the time, things were very reasonable. Looking at the comparative of the rate, it was 1-to-1. $1 $1 Liberian dollar.
Really?
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Continue. Yeah.
Up to the wall. Or 1-to-1. So you saw how things were. So now you see a 200-to-1.
Right.
So things the exacerbation of the problem, it lies in this monetary economy fight. And you got a leader that is able to stabilize the country because he doesn't know. And the great politician he got around him as fanatics. That the one he takes advice from. He will never take advice from nobody else. It's a 1-to-1. Because of that 1-to-1 comparison, the economy was very smooth. Our people never suffered to send us to school and things like that. But today you got 3 to 4, 5 children, you suffer, you got to send them to government school. And government school almost worse than the private schools now. So we see things becoming worse. The exacerbation of our livelihood is declining every day.
But you're saying before the first coup.
It was better.
Now, real quick, Firestone. People always point to Firestone.
Well, Firestone, the existence of Firestone came from 1926. It was during the administration of President Charles D.B. King. He stayed in power for 10 years. He became president of this country in 1920 to 1930. But because he carried out the worst electoral fraud in our history, he was forced to resign by the League of Nations, who preceded the United Nations. An investigating board was sent here to investigate him for 2 reasons: electoral fraud, slavery. He was taken on slavery.
Slavery where?
Slavery in Liberia here.
On whose part? Like who was enslaving?
President Charles D.B. King enslaved Liberians. He sent them out there
To Firestone.
to
The plantation, Firestone, the
No.
rubber plant.
to Fernando
Po. Okay. Fernando
Sent them
Po.
out there. But this agreement came into being in 1926 through Howard S. Firestone, the first modern car tires. Howard S. Firestone signed the agreement. 99 years, the time, 99 months, 99 weeks, 99 days, 99 minutes, 99 hours, 99 minutes, 99 seconds. For how much?
What was it, like 60,000 or something crazy, something low, 600,000? It was something
$1
crazy.
million.
Oh,
$1 million. 1 million acres of land for $1 million, which means they sold 1 acre for $1. He sold the land. Brought the indigenous people to a crowd. They work on the plantation.
The indigenous people worked on the plantation.
Yeah, they work on the plantation.
Okay.
That's why I said there's an exception to every rule. We had some leaders who were very mild. We had some who were generous.
Right.
Charles D.B. King. Just imagine. The time, the election of 1927, he and Thomas Faulkner went into this race. And at the time, the electors we had, there were only 15,000 eligible voters. At the end of the race, the man carried about 50,000 plus.
Election.
Yes. And this report was taken to the League of Nations by Thomas Faulkner.
Former United.
The party that succeeded preceded the United Nations was the League of Nations after World War I. You see, he was found guilty and he was forced to resign because of his wickedness. So all those problems brought Harvard, administrative Harvard, and economic Harvard on Liberia. We had Edwin J. Barclay who succeeded him. Barclay tried his best. There's nothing bad in the history. Even the Lone Star Forever, one of our Liberian recognized songs The Lone Star Forever, written by President Barclay.
Now, so let's get back to Fernando Po.
Yes. The Fernando Po crisis.
Okay, so was it just indigenous Liberians being sent to Fernando Po?
Sent mostly from Nima.
Okay.
Because he took Nima County to be a farm.
Okay.
They sent them, they didn't try, they just put them on a different understanding. That one work for money. They didn't tell them like before, whatnot. They were sent, they were given wages. But how the wages got to them, they didn't even know. Everything was coming to him. He was sending them to work on the tea plantation, the Spanish tea plantation in Fernando Po, southern Nigeria, it's an island they call Fernando Po. He was shipping them to go and work, and the money coming to him.
Okay, so they weren't being paid.
They were being paid, but he was benefiting.
Okay, so the money was going to
in his pocket, not for the government.
Okay, so the government wasn't involved necessarily.
Yes.
They were with
Yeah.
Fernando Po.
Yes.
But so the money was being sent to which individual?
It was not sent for the Liberian government, but he put it on the pretense, but it was his pocket change.
Okay.
You see. So it was very bad.
So somebody was stealing the money basically that was supposed to be paid to the employees.
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
And some of them died over there. They never came back home. If you never, before the avenue, you send the people there and they stay there, whether they born there, then most of them left there. Some of them found their way back.
Okay. So the intentions were to send them over, work, pay them, but basically somebody got
There was
greedy.
an agreement between the hurricane there, who ran the plantation, and the president.
Okay. So
So
they're
he benefited, and the people worked there like slaves. He benefited.
so they're supposed to go work, be paid, but the president didn't pay them and
He
kept the
didn't
money.
pay them.
And kept the
It's
money.
still going on now. Still going on.
To this day.
Oh, today people working can't get paid. You can't get no redress, my man. Not that the president sending them out there. But people, you work for big people, you can't even get the money. Why you carry them? So that's some of the things that bring havoc to us, Shalom.
So
There's
what?
no equality here.
So were people being sent to Fernando Po before Americos took power? Because I heard this has been going on for hundreds of years.
America had recognized us at the time as independent country. The same relationship between going on now. Since 1862, when America recognized you were so late because you knew that you were not equipped to declare independence. She was still sending free slaves back here to settle here, but she was not putting much interest. Say, but where are they politically? Where are they when they come to the development cycle? Where are they to declare independence? Where are they? Where they got? They got to depend on the ACS. ACS got to depend on. They say, well, independent. Then we see Great Britain was the first country to recognize Liberia. 1862 was so late from 1847 to 1862. So to show that America was never in favor of us standing on our own. But they did it for a reason. Had they not done so, all our lands were going to be taken by the British and the French.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much for this.
Yes.
I appreciate it. Now, where's you say your roots are from Kentucky? Your family?
Yes, our forefathers, my linkage go back to the slaves that were settled in that part of America. They were bought by one Coleman. And finally, the offspring of those particular people who were taken as bought as slaves by this Coleman, one of them became President of the Republic of Liberia. He was president for 1 4-year time from 1896 to 1900. President William David Coleman, whom I came from. He was my great-grandfather.
And that needs to be celebrated, how a former slave or descendant of slaves became president of a country. That needs to be celebrated.
Well, we since that time, the time has gone, time has passed, whatnot. We don't care about celebrating his birthday and whatnot. To say let's celebrate President Coleman. Only President Tubman's birthday is commemorated. President William V. S. Tubman. Maybe because he passed that into law during the time he was president, and he stayed in power longer than any other president. But when they go there, other president there who did better than his president Tolbert, we don't celebrate Tolbert's birthday. What Tolbert did during his time, he only circulated the commemoration of the Independence Day, where he went. If he said this particular country will host their independence, he will spend money there to develop that country for that independence. He never took his birthday as first preference, like Tottenham. So Tottenham's birthday is part of our constitution, November 29 of each year.
We are in Monrovia, Liberia, at Providence Island. This is the original point of return. I know in Ghana this year they're celebrating the year of return, but in my honest opinion, the original year of return was 1821, where black Americans were fed up with the racial terrorism in America and they decided to come to Liberia and take control of their own destiny. And that's where we're at, Providence Island. I have Rhoda with me.
Hi guys, good to see you again. Thanks for coming.
I'm happy to be here. I'll be back. I'll be back.
We're so happy to have you here. Another great Pan-African YouTuber. I love connecting all of us, all across the world. So that's amazing. Thank you for coming. But yeah, we're here where it all started. And this is the first point where the free slaves stopped. And Providence Island was kind of like a staging point, a welcome center of sorts, where the free slaves would settle after their very long voyage before going to their establishments. One of them, the main ones being Harrisburg, where I'm from and my family's from, and we're still there actually, which hopefully we'll get a chance to take you there as well.
Tuesday. Welcome back.
Yeah, when you get back. But yeah, this is where it all started. So let's check it out.
Check it out.
A whole bunch of different things happening here at the same time. And I've always been very proud of my ancestry.
Which you should be.
Of course, my grandparents, I grew up with my parents were divorced when I was quite young, and so I spent a lot of time with both my grandmothers who told me stories and our family history. My grandparents, my great-grandparents, my great-great-grandparents, all public servants who did different things. They were the first this, the first that, etc., etc. We've got all of that documented. But before my very eyes, when I was born, this is the house that I was brought into as a baby. It was just built. This whole wing was not there. This was the end of the house. It was a much smaller house. By then, they had just opened up this area of Mamba Point.
Okay.
In the 10 years before, when they were building the port after World War II, we came here to this. So I remember when they were widening the Tubman Boulevard and the infernal traffic while they were paving those streets, building those roads. I remember when a lot of the things that we take for granted, as the road to Robertsfield, I remember when it was being built. Before that, we used to go much further through Firestone to get to the airport. So there was a lot to be proud of, and overnight, a new narrative started to come up, and it took me by surprise. I was in college in the U.S.
Okay.
At Michigan State.
Okay, what year?
I went to college in 78, 1978.
So you were there with Magic Johnson?
Yes, I was. I sure was.
Uh-huh.
I was there, Magic Johnson, when they won the...
Beat Larry Bird, Indiana State, yeah.
The
NCAA basketball.
NCAA.
Uh-huh.
I was there. I was in my sophomore year almost. He was a year ahead of me, and I was there when he signed and went pro. And I mean, they were a common part of. I used to have photos of me and Magic Johnson, and I'm trying to remember the names. It was him. And there was another one. They both went pro together. The other one didn't do very well. But anyway, Yeah. So I was there in college, and then all of a sudden a new narrative was coming out, and I was told things about. I was like, that's not my. I, I didn't see that. I don't know this.
So
What
basically,
are they talking about?
the America being demonized didn't start to the end of the 80s or like 78. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think there were a few attempts, and you can go back and you can find books, and I've tried to buy some of them whenever I could from antique booksellers. There was one called Top Hats and Tom Toms, where they made mockery of the society here, its aspirations or whatever. But when you go back in the African Repository, for example, and you read the speech that J.J. Roberts gave in 1845 to try to convince the Liberians that independence was the course that they wanted, and he's a fantastic figure in our history, and I don't think any book has been written about him.
And that's the statue.
That man.
Okay, so this is the story that's told in America. He was a mulatto. I don't call him out his name. Sellout. That's the story.
Yeah, I mean,
you know.
you can call it what it was, but he was, as much as any one person could be, the father of Liberia.
Right.
He came in February 1829, and I know this because my Cooper ancestors came on the same ship with him.
Where did the Coopers come from in America?
They came from Portsmouth, Norfolk, and Portsmouth.
Virginia.
Virginia.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And he came from Virginia. He came from Petersburg.
Okay.
The ship took off from Norfolk. And he came, and immediately he started trading, and he amassed a wealth. And what happened, that's not really told, but it's there in the records if you care to, to go and do the research about
that's why I'm here.
Was he came with his boat frame and his house frame. He came with some money, and he had some trading partnerships, and he started trading and going overseas. And at one point, the American Colonization Society agents used to buy provisions, sometimes from natives, sometimes from traders, whoever. And so he used to sell them things, and then they opened an account with him, and they started owing him. At one point in time, he had more wealth than the ACS, the society here, and the agents were indebted to him. And so that gave him a power, and that's why he elbowed his way and was like, okay, well, you owe me. If I want to call my debts right now, I'll shut down the ACS here, and I'll take over this country. And so he started an agitation. I don't have details, and it's written in more flowery language than that. But amongst his friends and the fellow Virginians, they called them, because they were the ones, and started talking about self-autonomy in the mid-1830s. And so from colony, Liberia became a commonwealth.
Kings and their other families also.
Okay, now, as far as Liberia goes, in regards to Black American history, should Liberia be celebrated? What Black Americans were able to accomplish here in Liberia?
I'll put it this way. In Liberian history, there's a lot that should be celebrated. There's also a lot that shouldn't be. But the first thing is, one thing that we should know, that at the time of Liberia's founding, and around circa before the Civil War at that time, an argument was made that Africans, those of African Black descent genealogy, were either not fully human, and they were not capable of self-governance, they were not capable of leading a nation, a country. Liberia belies that fact. Liberia goes against that. Liberia disproves that. That alone should be cause for celebration. yes, there were things that didn't go right, and I think a lot of that was based on political expediency rather than maybe thought out ideology. But it was based upon survival and how we can survive and take our nation forward. That doesn't excuse it.
Right.
But Liberia should be celebrated for its contributions, and it showed many of the African nations around, and in the Pan-African struggle, Liberia played a significant role in the struggle against colonialism, but it showed many of our brothers in Guinea, Cote d'Ivoire, Ghana, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, who came here and studied our constitution, went to school, a lot of them, that Liberia was a perfect example that they could govern themselves, that they were capable, that we as a people are capable of making progress in a hostile world. Liberia was the only independent nation in Africa other than Ethiopia,
Right.
surrounded by colonial powers who constantly encroached on its territory, but they were able to maintain that integrity of its territory over the years, not through military force, but mainly through diplomatic, not diplomatic chess, let's say, wherein they were, even though portions of territory were seized, for example, there's I think it's around Ma in Cote d'Ivoire, there's and I think Taboo, there's a seal which marked the then border of Liberia. It's a monument, it's still there, of Liberia in the 19th century, but the French just took those portions and added to their colony.
Right.
But those they exist in modern day Cote d'Ivoire. That was actually the part of Liberia. But it's a testament to the diplomatic acumen and knowledge of the governments of the past governments of Liberia, that they were able to maintain their independence in a very hostile environment, and that sets an example that for modern governments and for modern Africans that we don't have to be the strongest, but you can be smart enough, you can be adroit enough, agile enough to maneuver and maintain and keep your independence.
Now, how was Liberia, from what you heard, prior to 1980, prior to the first coup? How was Liberia? I heard the economy was great. The Liberian dollar was 1-to-1 to the U.S. dollar. Exported to Japan. I heard a lot of great things. It was Liberia set the standard on how a republic should be ran. The economy was better than Korea. And so how was Liberia before the first coup in 1980?
From what I've heard, because I was a child at the time, so I can't really relate. But from what I've been told by many different people is Liberia was an example for other nations in Africa. They sent people from Cote d'Ivoire came here to study our agricultural policies. Other people came. I think the infrastructure, Monrovia, mainly in Monrovia, was pretty modern, and it wasn't, I wouldn't say it was on par with Paris or whatever, but it was better than most contemporary African capitals at the time.
Right.
And they used to call Liberia Petit Amérique, in like the French country, small America. And people figured that, and there was a lot of migration and transshipment from here.
Right.
That's what I was told with regards to the positives. The economy was booming, and there was a lot of opportunities. What wasn't happening was there was not a lot of social mobility, and there was discrimination.
Okay.
And that, I'm saying, I'm happy to say I didn't grow up during that time, because I don't think I would have been happy living in that type of environment. But there was social discrimination and against what were called natives. But there was also a lot of social discrimination against Caucasians. And
which is a good, which, I mean,
I will say it's a good thing.
Well, what I mean is, a lot of times Africans have this reputation of kissing Caucasians.
but Liberia still has, I think, one of the few, I think Ghana also, where Caucasians can become citizens and they can't
Right.
land. And I think a lot
I think
of
Sierra Leone too, I believe.
Okay.
As far as citizenship, I believe. Yeah.
But a lot of that was a direct legacy of slavery. And because they were afraid that, okay, even though we're an independent republic, but we're poor, we don't have a lot of money, and they'll just come in and buy the place up. And we'll end up like second-class citizens or third-class, depending on which portion of society we are in Liberia, and that wasn't what it was meant to be. And I think even at that time, Liberia wasn't what it was meant to be. It hadn't become the melting pot that it was envisioned to be, where all Africans, whether you're American Liberian or native indigenous backgrounds, we hadn't fully managed to a fair and free society where everybody was blending in and fully in. And that was what led to the downfall and undercut whatever economic successes and strides we had taken forward. Plus, there was also, we were also to some extent the victims of the Cold War, in that at that time we were very President Tobo was very heavily aligned with the non-aligned movement, and we were basically trying to preach neutrality in our actions. We were one of the first nations to condemn apartheid in South Africa, and we were a very understated, but Liberia used to send money to the ANC. Mandela lived here. He and many other ANC members, Sudanese, others, traveled on Liberian diplomatic passports and Liberian passports. They came here, they went, and so on and so forth. I know, like.
So I'm sorry to cut you off, I forget. So this is my question: if the indigenous population was treated so bad, I hear the words apartheid, I hear the word slavery, but you see Kwame Nkrumah was here often. You just said Nelson Mandela was here often. Did they turn a blind eye to it, or what was?
Apartheid and slavery, for me, they're not comparable.
But people will all day. The Black Americans came and
people will say that, but the thing is, with apartheid and whatnot, for example, you had to have a card. A colored man couldn't marry a black woman.
Right.
A white man couldn't marry a colored woman. Couldn't do this. There are certain things that were not allowed. Races, people were not allowed to mingle.
Right.
In Liberia, you had many cases of indigenous and descendants of settlers marrying, having kids, intermingling, and whatnot, and so on. And there was, I forgot his name, there was a past president of Liberia, I think Stephen Allen Benson, if I remember correctly. There was a conflict between settlers and natives in Basso.
Okay.
And his family's people were killed.
Oh wow.
But the Bassos did not kill him. They raised him. And at some point, he was returned to the settlers' town or wherever. But he was the first president in Liberia, Liberian president, who spoke an indigenous language, who was elected. Because he lived with the Basso people and he spoke Basso.
Now, what was the conflict over? Do you know, or?
I don't know.
Okay.
But what I mean is, so there was a lot of, there was intermarriage, and there were places where there was mobility. The problem, I think, was, that's my opinion, was that it was not widespread. It was not perceived as widespread.
Okay.
And it was also seen as that people of native descent did not have means to ascend or to progress or to get promoted or to, let's say, move up the social hierarchy as quickly, or they had to jump through hoops. might say, or they had to meet a certain standard that they didn't feel that they had to meet, or that wasn't felt that they had to meet. So that was, I think, those were some of the root causes. Then there was just plain prejudice on the part of some American Liberians, wherein they would like tell natives that you weren't good enough, they would put them down and whatnot. Like I said, I personally classify as political expediency, as people trying to dominate others, but I won't justify it and whatnot. But I don't think it was as bad as apartheid. It was not slavery. There are individual cases of incidents happening that we have different stories and backstories that I don't feel that I have the knowledge to be able to really speak on and give like a definitive or deconstruction or clear delineation between right versus wrong. But I think that it was bad, but it was never as bad as apartheid. I've been to South Africa. I've seen how up to this day the society is still structured and how it is still very, very, very separated.
Right.
And wherein you have to really, literally be careful how you say and what you do, because people will automatically place you into a category.
Right.
Because they think they'll be like, oh, this one he's colored, or he's this. Like I went to a store in South Africa, and this lady spoke to me in Zulu and refused to serve me because I couldn't speak Zulu. But I'm not from there. And because I couldn't reply. And then there was another lady who was there who was like, he's not from here. And then she was like, oh, sorry. And then she served me. I'm talking about the checkout counter. I was standing up there looking at her and she's ignoring me. And other people are just going in line or going to other places. I'm just there, I'm like, and she's not. So that wouldn't happen here. And here, even though here, if we had, let's say, think it would be a last name, people would be like, oh, your name from Mule? And they use that to place you, okay, you're probably from this or this. But here, it still happens here. You'll be like, somebody, you go somewhere and say, who's your mom? Who's your mother? Who's your father? Or who's this? And then, anyway, society does that everywhere. But I mean, then they pigeonhole you or place you somewhere. And that's the legacy of that. But like I've said and I'll say before, like I have many cousins who are not American-Liberian, who look nothing like that because of intermarriage. And that was before 1980. Since 1980, it's crazy. Right now, there's nothing you can say. You come out and you see somebody like, for example, I have a friend, her name is Salamatu Duncan. Salamatu is a typical indigenous name. Duncan is her father's name, but she's of mixed heritage. How would you classify her? We had people in Tubman's government, other governments who are of the same thing. It took a little longer, maybe than it should have, but it's there. And right now, where we are in modern Liberia, this Liberia after the war, after all of this destruction, after all of this, I think we're in a post, I don't know the correct term, but let's say a post-discrimination state, where even though that is there is a very much awareness of it, but I think it's a legacy of the past, like the older generation who really experienced it and lived it. We don't get as much.
Now, the coup of 1980, what was the objective of that coup?
The objective, publicly, it was stated that corruption and discrimination, I think, were the two most touted reasons for the coup. I think it was exercise in power. I think, like I said, we're a victim of the Cold War. And we also...
Okay, you think outside forces?
Outside forces definitely played.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree too. Yeah. I thought it was just odd after the coup Doe goes to the White House, is buddy with Ronald Reagan. And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, but then also the other thing is that you had at that point there was a new generation coming of leaders,
No.
and you had a lot of leaders of mixed heritage and of indigenous heritage who had gone outside on government scholarships, who had left the bubble that is Liberia, and they intermingled. They'd had interactions, intellectual interactions outside, and they were like, okay, a lot of them were like, no, what's going on at home is not right. Okay, we understand that this is that, but we need to be a more inclusive, more integrated society. We need to break down any barriers.
Right.
And I think Talbot also recognized that. And he was trying in his own way to break down those barriers. But
Now, wasn't his vice president indigenous? Or
he was mixed, actually.
he's mixed?
But, yeah.
Okay.
But that, for me, is because Liberian vice presidents are very, they're symbols. But what it comes down to is that at that point, the powers that be, there was a vulnerability that Talbot had because he was fighting the establishment,
Right.
which is always true. The establishment doesn't want change, and he wanted change. And then we also had these young guns, these young political persons, a lot of who are now leaders, political leaders today, or just exiting the stage, like former President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. She was a young up-and-comer at that time.
Yeah, they spared her life, though, I guess.
Yeah, but I'm saying there were many of those people who have been like in the forefront of Liberian politics from 1980 up to the last 2-3 years.
Right.
You can see now because of age, a lot of them are transiting out. And what we're seeing is that they felt that things weren't going fast enough, and they wanted also to be in positions of responsibility. So they were therefore right to facilitate and assist.
Right, third party, yeah.
The third party.
Outside party, yeah.
Outside party, but also the PRC, the military who actually effected the coup. Because the thing is, after they killed Talbot and arrested everybody else, what next?
And that's my next question. So after the coup, how has Liberia been? Like, because I'm trying to figure out what was the objective. Like, so outside of power and ego, like, what was the end game for Doe and the people who took over? Like, what goals did they have for Liberia post coup?
One thing I would say, I will not, with the PRC, for the most part, a lot of them I think were naive.
Right.
And they were also, to some extent, kind of idealistic.
Let me make the best use I can of them, and hopefully, something will catch fire, and people will say, yeah, this is what we need to do.
In closing, why should Black Americans celebrate Liberia?
We are a part of your history, and you're part of our history, because our people left America, but they never, let me tell you an anecdote.
Go ahead. I know it's your birthday, so.
Yeah, it's my birthday.
I know you people here. I don't understand.
Let me just tell you a quick anecdote.
Go ahead.
Washington, D.C., like most of America, was quite segregated, even up into the 50s and 60s. 1953, President Tubman went on a trip to the UN and then to the US, and then he went down to Jamaica and Haiti, etc., etc. While traveling through many places, hotels were segregated, and they would not accept black people in there. And so when the U.S. government decided, okay, they were going to give, Liberia was going to establish an embassy. That was done in Tubman's era, that we had an embassy there and an ambassador. And so we had to buy an embassy. He bought the embassy in a segregated white neighborhood of Washington, D.C., so that they would see blacks in that area and in that particular neighborhood. And today, our embassy is still there in that neighborhood. Now it's it's all moot. But back in the 50s, that was a big deal for black people to be in that neighborhood that was supposed to be segregated. That was before civil rights era and all of those laws were abolished. But that's one of the things. It's a little thing, and it's not even a thing that you will see in history books. Why should they celebrate? Because we are the same people.
Right.
We have the same experiences. We came here, we have other experiences to add on it, but we have that historical DNA in us that joins us. We come from the same thing, the same roots. So if you're going to come back somewhere, it should be here.
Liberia.
Come see what your people did.
Liberia.
And almost all of us can trace, I can take you back to where each of my family members that come from America, where they come from. And say, I look around here, I'm sure I have some family members that I haven't done DNA testing, but it just means that we're the same people.
We're the same people.
So
Thank
you're gonna
you.
come. I don't say don't go to Ghana. Go to Ghana by all
Oh,
means.
yeah.
Go to everywhere
Yeah.
in Africa. But if you want a story that's part of your story, come here.
Liberia. Absolutely.
Yep.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.